perimeter of figures with circles. The perimeter of a circle is called the circumference. In order to calculate the circumference, we have to understand what the parts of a circle are called. So we're going to label the diagram to the right with the following. If O is the center, so we're going to call the center of our circle O. So the radius is this part of the circle right there. So it's half of the width of the circle. The diameter is the entire length of the width of our circle. So the whole thing is the diameter, and just half is the radius. And then all the way around the outside is our perimeter, which is also called the circumference. So O is the origin, or the center of our circle. The diameter is the entire width of the circle, and the radius is just half the width of the circle. So the circumference can be easily found if you know either the diameter or the radius of the circle. So there are two formulas that can be used to calculate the circumference. One is pi times d, or pi times the diameter, and the other is 2 times pi times the radius, or 2 times pi r. And these are really the same formula, since the diameter is 2 of the radiuses, so d is actually equal to 2r. So 2 radiuses is the same as 1 diameter. So what is pi? So this is a symbol, a mathematical symbol that has the Greek word pi. And pi is a symbol that represents a number. So you might notice that you have a button on your calculator that looks like that pi symbol. And pi is a number that does never end. So it has a decimal number that has no end. Some mathematicians have never been able to find the end of pi. So that's something that we call an irrational number. If you don't have a pi button on your calculator, you can use the value of pi, which is 3.14. So that only includes the first 2 decimal places of pi. So this is an approximation. That's why we have this equal sign with a dot on it. So it's about 3.14 if we round it to the nearest hundredth. So we're going to use 3.14 to calculate our circumference of the following circles. So in example A, we know the radius. So in order to find the circumference of this circle, we are going to use the formula that uses the radius. So 2 times pi times r. So my circumference is 2 times 3.14 times my radius, which is 12. 2 times 3.14 is 6.28. And I'm multiplying that by 12. So 6.28 times 12 is equal to 75.36, and my units are centimeters. So just like when we figured out the perimeter of shapes, we also need to include the units when we are calculating the circumference of a circle. If you use your pi button on your calculator, then you would do it in this order. So you would do C is equal to 2 times pi times 12. 2 times 12 is 24. And then this is where you would use your pi button on your calculator. So 24 times pi gives you an answer of 75.40 if you round it to the nearest hundredth. So you'll notice that using the pi button gives you an answer that's slightly different than if you use 3.14. And I want to show you that because you might get an answer that is different than the person sitting beside you if you used your pi button and they use 3.14. But you'll notice they are very close. So both of these answers would be correct on a test, worksheet, assignment, and so on. So let's do the same thing for part B. So part B, we know the diameter of our circle is 9 kilometers. So we are going to use the formula circumference that uses the diameter. So the circumference is 3.14 times 9. And 3.14 times 9 gives us 28.26. My units are kilometers. If I happen to use my pi button, I'm going to have pi times 9. And that gives me 28.27 if I round to the nearest hundredth. So again, you'll notice they are close, but they are not exactly the same. So keep that in mind when you are doing your calculations that involve pi. Now, what happens if we have some composite figures involving circles? So we're either taking part of a circle or we're adding a circle or part of a circle to another object. So in this case, we need to determine the number of straight edges and the number of curved edges. So in the first figure, we have one straight edge and one curved edge. So we need to figure out the distance around the curve. Now this is only half of a circle. So when I'm calculating the distance around my circle, I need to make sure that I divide my circumference into half. I know the diameter of my circle is 11 kilometers. So I'm going to use the version of my circumference that uses the diameter, but I have to divide it by 2 because this is only half of a circle. So the circumference, I'm going to use 3.14, is 3.14 times 11 divided by 2. So 3.14 times 11 is 34.54. I'm dividing that by 2, and that gives me 17.27. And what is the distance around my straight edge? Well, that's 11. So when I'm calculating my total distance, my total perimeter is my curved edge plus my straight edge, which gives me 28.27, and I need to include my units, which are kilometers. Now let's take a look at example 2. So here I have 1, 2, 3 straight edges. So this side is also 25 centimeters, and I have 1 curved edge. So very similar to the first example, I need to find the dimension of this curved edge, which still is only half of my circle. So again, I'm taking my circumference formula. Again, I know my diameter. So the diameter is 20. So I'm going to use the pi d formula, but dividing that by 2 because I only have half of a circle. So again, I'm going to use 3.14. 3.14 times 20 divided by 2. 3.14 times 20 is 62.8. And 62.8 divided by 2 is 31.4. So now that I've calculated my curved edge, I can calculate the total perimeter of my shape. So my total perimeter is 31.4 plus 25 plus 20 plus 25. 31.4 plus 25 is 56.4, and 20 plus 25 is 45. And 56.4 plus 45 is 101.4, and my units are centimeters. And in this last example, I know my radius, so my 8 meters is the radius of my circle, and I'm taking a portion of this circle out, so I only have 3/4 of a circle, so that's important to note as well. So I have two straight edges, and I have one curved edge. So I'm going to use the version of my formula for circumference that uses my radius. So I'm using 2 pi r, but I only have 3/4 of my circle, so I'm going to multiply this by 3/4. So I'm going to substitute in my value for pi and for my radius. So it's going to be 2 times 3.14 times 8 times 3 all over 4. That's another way to write this. I'm going to multiply all of my numbers in the numerator all at once. So 2 times 3.14 times 8 times 3 is equal to 150.72 divided by 4. And that gives me 37.68. So now that I've calculated the circumference of my curved section, I'm going to find out the perimeter of my total shape. So I'm taking my curved section and I'm adding it to one of the straight edges, which is 8, plus the other straight edge, which is also 8, because these are both going to be the same width because they are both the radius. And just like I multiplied all of my numbers in the numerator at the same time, I can go ahead and add those all together at the same time as well. So 37.68 plus 8 plus 8 is equal to 53.68, and my units are meters. If you have any questions about this lesson, please reach out, send me an email, sign up for a virtual help session, and I will see you in the next lesson.